Welcome to the Longest Term Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 23, 1 year anniversary. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
In this episode, we're going to celebrate our first year of podcasting.
Woohoo! Yeah, who knew we'd get this far?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some games that we've been playing lately. We're going to talk about some of our favorite moments from the podcast over the last year. We're going to talk about some of the feature reviews we did, and we're going to rank those games. We're also going to do an Ankh Gods of Egypt look back because it's been 1 year, boys.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Time flies when you're having fun.
Seriously, there's a lot that we've done in this 1 year, but I think there's a lot still that I'm looking forward to getting to moving forward.
Well, I think the most significant thing that we did in the past year was actually 2 weeks ago when we released our episode 22, Cthulhu Death May Die, and we challenged in that episode, and I know they listened to it, Rob Davio and Eric Lang to give us some new Cthulhu Death May Die content.
And lo and behold,
what happened 2 days later?
There's a
season 3.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
And not only that, they came up with a quick prototype copy that was ready and shipped to Essen just in time to demo there.
In 2 days.
That's a turnaround.
No, but I'm super excited for that, for season 3. The timing of it's crazy that we just did a review of that, and they announced it 2 days later. But
we're sitting there saying, the one thing that's missing from this game is more content.
Yeah, that was my negative on the episode, I think.
And looking at pictures of the prototype, there's new elder gods, there's new monsters. It just it says new rules. I don't know what those are going to be. I mean, there's going to be different episodes with different rules in those episodes, but I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's going to be a completely standalone, so you won't need the first 2 seasons. But hopefully, if you're looking for them, you can. You'll have an opportunity to get them through the Kickstarter. I don't know if that's true or not.
I hope they do the exclusive content from the first Kickstarter again, the Unspeakable box. If they don't, I'm going to be a little bummed about that. You don't want that?
Well,
you already have it.
I paid a top dollar for it.
Oh, so you want to be the only one that has it. Yeah.
So, here's the thing, though, because it's Logan's copy. He's getting older. He's not always going to live in this house, so maybe I need my own copy of Unspeakable Box.
I think you do.
I'd also need my own 3-foot statue of Cthulhu if they go back to that.
If they release that, I am buying it.
Oh, my goodness.
Just so you know.
I will eagerly anticipate you having one of those on your table.
Yeah.
I the only other game that I know that they've gone and done like a full reprinting of it. Like they've done Zombicide type of stuff and things like that, and they've done new versions of Zombicide. But the one that I'm thinking of is Blood Rage. Yeah. And that Blood Rage Kickstarter, they came back with all the exclusive content and everything else from the original Kickstarter, so you could get that. I don't know if that's what they're going to do here, but that would be really great, especially if that's what they've done in the past. But I don't know.
No, you're all in, Tyson, right?
Yeah, I'm really concerned at what the all-in price on this will be.
The original, season 2, season 3, that's going to be a hefty Kickstarter.
And they've been charging some outrageous prices for their shipping, and I don't care.
I don't care either. Yeah.
This is where I am grateful that they're making a standalone version of season 3. Like you can get season 3 and it's standalone.
It's got a couple elder ones.
I may get that, or just season 1. I don't know. I'll see what their options are.
Yeah, you get the exclusive content you can't get later, and you can get season 1 or the original and season 2
in retail.
Or
right?
Actually, those are hard to get now, aren't they?
They are. You cannot find them very easily.
You better take out another loan and get everything.
Who immediately after playing with us. First time playing
on eBay, but they're scarce.
No, he bought that on a OLGS, an online game store.
Oh, really?
And he got a copy of it there.
One of the elder ones is still
Yog-Sothoth or something like that.
See, what I'm curious to see is if they not only bring back the giant Cthulhu statue, but if they do another one of a different elder one.
I would buy that as well.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine shipping for those though?
Dude, you're looking at like $1,000 if you get all in with both of those.
If they do that,
they did that,
now you need to use them in King of Tokyo or something.
Find other uses for these master statues. I mean, to get your money's worth, you probably would, because there's only like one playable scenario with those statues.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It'd be awesome, though. It's
Yeah.
going to be fun to find out. I'm glad we got the ball rolling, though.
Yeah. We put the bug in their ear and they really got to work. Good job, Seema.
Yeah, that was a quick turnaround. Props to you guys.
It really pays to not be informed sometimes.
Yeah, we had no clue. So there you go.
So yeah, like I said, I mean, we started this podcast. It has been 1 year. October 17th was our first episode ever. I just want to go back through some stats here and share some insider info. That first episode on its launch day, we had 13 clicks.
Yeah.
And that was all us and all family, I'm sure.
I probably listened to it 4 times.
Okay, I got it on Spotify. Now I need to do it on. Yeah, so that I thought that was funny. We've been listened to in 90 different countries, which is cool.
Listen, maybe an interesting choice of words. We've had clicks from 90 different countries.
There's really no way to track. Like we get stats on Apple and Google Podcasts of how long people listen.
I choose to think every click is a full listen.
Well, we're doing pretty good then. Some of our episodes are in the hundreds. We have some in the thousands. We're happy with where we've gone in a year, and we're excited for the future. I will say we got 40 Discord subscribers on our Discord. We've got 18 subscribers on our BGG blog, 19 group members on our BGA group that we've been playing games with, and that's been a blast. And one more stat, we have talked about 237 different games that we've tracked. I mean, we've mentioned other games in passing that I haven't added to this list, but games that made our top 5s, feature reviews, games that we've been playing lately, games that we're excited about. 237 games in 1 year. I think that's pretty good.
That's fair.
Safe to say we're game nerds.
Yeah. We like board games.
We like board games. Yeah. Who knew?
Cool.
So, I mean, 237 games is a lot of games. So let's add more to it by talking about what we've been playing lately.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so a game that I've been playing recently we've been playing on BGA is a game called Lost Cities. So this is an older game. Tyler's looking at his shelf. So is this one you have, Tyler?
I have one of them.
Do you have Lost Cities, the board game? I think
I have Lost Cities, the board game.
Yeah. There's been a few. I don't know if that's a different version, but it's just a different Lost Cities, also designed by Reiner Knizia.
I think it's in the closet of shame now. It's no longer out on the shelf.
Oh, so the chances that gets played is very slim. Right? So this one is Lost Cities. It was designed by Reiner Knizia. It came out a while ago where's the date? It came out in 1999. So it's an older game. So it's a 2-player game. It happens to be one that my wife and I really enjoy playing. We played a lot way back in the day. We haven't gotten it out for a while. But the way this plays is you have a deck of cards, and there's 5 different suits, and there's numbers from 2 to 10, and then there's 3 handshake cards. So you shuffle up these cards, you get dealt 8 cards per player, and then you have a choice. Either you can discard a card, or you can play a card in front of you, and then you draw a card, and you draw a card either from the discard piles in front of you or from a draw pile. So what you're trying to do is you go on expeditions. You start an expedition when you play a card to a card row that's one of the suits, one of the colors. When you start an expedition, you immediately are in the hole. So it's 20 points. And you're trying to get out of the hole and then get positive points for that expedition. The way you score points for the expedition is you play these numbered cards. And each numbered card is whatever that value is. And then the trick is you have to play from low to high. So if you play a 2, you can play anything. You play a 3. But if you jump from a 2 to a 7, you can only play higher than a 7. So it's either an 8, 9, or a 10. And you got to break that 20-point barrier, right? The other player there's only one unique card of each suit and number in the deck. So the other player could have a card that you're waiting for. It could be in the deck, or it could be with that other player. Another little twist in the game is these handshake cards. So before you really start an expedition, you can play a handshake card before you start playing numbers, and that's a multiplier. So when the expedition's done, if I get 10 points and I have a handshake card, it's not a 10-point expedition. You multiply it by, that handshake, and it's a 20-point expedition. You can play 3 handshake cards and do a triple multiplier for that expedition. So it's risky to play those, but it could have a big benefit. The flip side is you can get negative points and big negative points if you aren't successful in that expedition. So you're going, you're playing cards. The way the game ends, when the draw pile is gone, the game immediately ends. You look at your expeditions, you count all the points. Whoever has the most points wins that round. And I believe you play 3 rounds. Whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds is the winner of the game. This game's a lot of fun. It's super easy. It's fun to manipulate those discard piles because you can discard a card and then in a later turn you can pick up that card. Or there can be a card buried in the discard pile for that color, and you can take cards from the discard pile until you get that buried card. And then you can play it. You have cards in your hand. The other person needs a card. You can hold on to that until they play it. They play a 7, you have a 6, and then you discard the 6, for example. And the other person's like, oh, you were holding that card, and it's just kind of a fun back and forth that way. So it's a great game. Super easy, super fun.
Super quick, right?
Super quick. I would highly recommend Lost Cities.
How's the board game arena implementation?
I'm liking it. What do you think, Tyson?
So, first of all, I have to say I'm really glad that you explained the game because I have not played this game in years, and you just recently invited me to a board game arena game of this, and I realized as soon as I played my first card, I was like, oh, that was probably a bad idea. That was not what I wanted to do. And now I need to remember how to play this game. So I haven't taken my turn until I got it. Now you've taught me the game again, and now I can go back. One of the things I really like about this game, what I remember playing it, is that you've got that. I love games that have the mechanic with the draw pile running out and like being your timer for the end of the game, because sometimes there are things, especially like in this game, you can do stuff to ensure that you're not drawing from that to prolong the game, or if you want to rush the game, you're just drawing from that, and you can see your opponent quickly drawing from that deck because they want to end that game, because you may have that minus 20 points because you just started a new expedition, and it can get really intense and exciting, and they want to ensure that you maintain that minus 20 points. But I think there's some really interesting, fun things about it. The BGA implementation, I haven't played much. I originally learned this game through the app version, and I really liked the app version of it. I think it does a really good job, but BGA so far seems to have a good implementation of it too.
So that is Lost Cities by Reiner Knizia.
So my game that I've played more recently is pretty similar to Lost Cities. It's really simple and straightforward, easy to understand. And by that, I mean not at all. It's the complete opposite. It's Bitoku, which was designed by German P. Milan, and the solo design was David Turchi and Javi Bordis Aymeric. This is published by Devere Games, and it's a game that has a lot going on. I remember when this first came out, probably 6 months ago or something like that. Everybody was talking about this game. There was a lot, and I saw pictures of it, and it's gorgeous. The art is beautiful. Everything on it, the colors palette that it uses, it just pops. But as I started to look into it more, I thought this looks really, really busy and complicated and complex.
Yes. Exactly. That's why I didn't buy it.
Exactly.
I was interested in it. I almost pulled the trigger a couple times, but it is busy.
It's the busiest board I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like a unicorn threw up all over it. I mean, that's like, it's just it's
very
like
colorful.
So many colors, and they're all just so tightly packed together, and it's just crazy.
No, and that's exactly how I felt about it. So same reason as both of you. I didn't end up picking it up, even though I was hearing a lot of really good things about it. I had no desire to, based off of looking at that board, pick it up myself. Well, Ben, our friend, ended up picking up a copy of this as well, and he learned it, I believe, at Dice Tower West recently, and played a copy of it, and then ended up purchasing it and brought it back, and he taught all three of us rather the game, and we ended up playing it. Even as he was teaching it, I remember thinking, this board is really busy, and I have no idea what's going on. I'm not even going to go through and try and explain exactly how this game plays, but suffice it to say, there's a lot of mechanics at play here. Dice placement, drafting, worker placement. You've got
objectives,
set
like
collections, objectives,
yeah,
secret, confidential objectives that you're doing and public ones, and there's card collecting and card hand management stuff. There is a lot of mechanics at play here. And with how busy the board looks and all the hodgepodge of mechanics at play, I was surprised at how quickly after starting playing this game that it seemed to click. Within about a round, I figured everything out pretty quickly, and it all started to make sense, and you could see the strategies. And I was really impressed by that aspect of this game alone. Just the fact that there's so much going on, and yet it wasn't as big of a barrier as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I liked how there's certain things that you're trying to do in the game that will get you points. And even though there's a ton of different things you can do, these cards that you get can guide your strategy, or where you go on the board to get bonuses can guide your strategy. So there's a ton to do, but really you can focus on a few different areas, which, for a game this big and that has so much going on, I appreciate that in a game like this.
Yeah, and I noticed that as well. And I think when we were playing, I was paying attention to what everybody was doing, and none of us took like a single same type of strategy. We did a little bit of everything here and there, but we kind of formed our own paths. And by the end, I was surprised to see how close in points it was. There were two major groupings in points, and even the points between our two groupings wasn't that disparate. Like there was a lot of it would have taken just a couple of points here or there to catch up to any one person, I felt. And I thought that there was a lot going on, but it felt very satisfying to me. I was very pleased with it. I kept thinking about it the next day and was like, oh, I would like to play this one again. The one thing that was interesting, and it took a long time for us. Like that first round was probably, for a learning game, I'd say that first round, which consists of like 4 phases, took us about an hour and a half, 2 hours with the rules teach probably to get all the way through that first round. And then it started speeding up after that, but it was a long game, and
not quite on Mars long, but it was very long.
Yeah, I think if we went back to it soon, we could get a 4-player play in 2 hours.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I thought Ben did an amazing job teaching this game. I mean, it's a 3.74 out of 5 on complexity on BGG. It's a beautiful game. I think we need to go back to it soon so that we can retain some of the strategies and the mechanics of the game, and it can maybe get in our rotation because this game's awesome.
Yeah.
I love dice placement games.
Yep.
Like Teo, that type of thing. This one does it great, and it has a few twists on that mechanic, which is really cool. You go there you go to a certain place, location with a high number. Somebody with a lower number can't get all the benefits of that location, which makes for some interesting and kind of cool, strategic decisions.
Yeah. I approached it as, this is a beast of a game. I'm just going to try and take it all in, not finish the night with a migraine, and go from there. But that was something that came out near the end of the game. The last 2 rounds, Kevin was blocking locations like crazy. He took pity on us
I shouldn't have location. Done it. Tyler got a bunch of points because I took pity.
I did, but I mean, he had blocked us with those higher dice values. I had higher dice early on in the game. I didn't monopolize that like Kevin did, and then I had lower valued dice. So it's a beautiful game. There's a lot. The board's still busy.
Absolutely.
But once Ben explained it all kind of just flowed and it made sense. And once we got going after that first round, I felt like we could play it pretty quick.
And the components in the game are they're awesome. I love how the board itself is a recessed board, and you're putting, pieces actually in the board.
Oh, yeah.
You can flip those pieces. I think that adds to the variability. It's just the production's fantastic.
It opens up for tons of expansions by swapping out those pieces. I think primarily in the base game, they're used for different player counts,
right? Yeah.
But the ability to create additional content, I mean, hopefully this game has a good following because I want to see more content for it.
Yeah. And I think that once you get past that first hurdle, like we've said, of playtime and digesting the whole thing, you can get it played a lot quicker, which, Kevin, you made the comparison in length of time to On Mars. I don't think, even after having played On Mars, like if I played it back to back, my time would be significantly different. Like it would still be a lengthy play.
And I probably still wouldn't even understand the game.
Right. But Bitoku, on the other hand, like I felt like I understood it. And now that everybody understands it, we can get this played a lot quicker. And the more you play it, the quicker I think it would continue to go.
Yeah, we need to not wait 6 months to play this again.
Yeah, all right, for sure. So that's Bitoku.
So one of the games that I played lately, I actually played this on Board Game Arena. It's in beta. It's called Legends of Hellas, and it is coming out in 2022. I looked on Board Game Atlas, and I couldn't find any copies of it anywhere. So it must be a fairly new game, but it is published by Quind Games. Is that how you pronounce that? The same people who have published Carnegie. So this is a really short 1 to 5 player cooperative game. You have a deck of cards that are of different suits, and they're not numbered or anything, but you have to defeat 7 mythological monsters. And you do that by each monster has 2 different suits that you can use to fight against the monster. So you have to play up to 5 cards to defeat a monster. You have to move your hero around to different monsters as you start out fighting 3 or 4 monsters at the beginning of the game. And as you defeat one, another one comes out. And then eventually you get to the 7th one. And it's actually a combined dual monster. So you have to do twice as much damage to it. It's really quick, cooperative game. If the draw pile exhausts and you haven't defeated all the monsters, then you lose. So you're playing against the deck, basically. It reminded me a little bit of Regicide. I think I liked Regicide a little bit more, but I did think it was cool. This is available on Board Game Arena. It's in beta, but it is cool because there's 12 missions that you can play through, and it has slightly different setups for each mission. Really quick, really lightweight. You're just playing cards, moving your guy around. When you draw cards, you have to discard a card. When you move, you have to discard a card. So you're really just playing against the deck. But I've only played it solo. It is a cooperative game. If you play it cooperatively, you cannot communicate about what cards are in your hand. You can't give any hints. I could see how that could be pretty fun as a quick little cooperative game. The art reminds me of, what's that one game, Tyson? Gorus Maximus? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same artist, but it and it's not as gory, but the cover reminded me immediately of Gorus Maximus.
It does look like a fun artwork. Like I looked it up, and that was one of the first things I noticed was, oh, this is a pretty cutesy fun, unlike Gorus Maximus, which is cutesy fun, but gory cutesy fun.
It's really gory. Yeah. If we played this on BGA, I wonder how many rounds it would take for Tyson to realize it was a cooperative game.
Yeah.
Well, now that I know it's cooperative,
okay,
I'm good.
That's been spoiled.
I do think this would be a great game to teach some basic mechanics to a child, right? You got a younger kid in your family. This would be a great game to play with them and teach them some cooperative concepts and hand management. And I see the value in it there. For me personally, it reminds me a little bit of Regicide. I would rather play Regicide. I'm still going to go play the rest of the missions that I haven't beat yet. So that is Legends of Hellas. It is currently available on Board Game Arena in beta.
All right, another game I've been playing, and this one is another, I think we have a theme of BGA games maybe for this episode, because this just showed up on BGA, and that is Ticket to Ride. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one.
Is that one where you...
It's got trains.
It's got trains.
Oh, hey.
Trains. Choo-choo.
Woo. No puns.
No puns. We got rid of all of those puns.
We did.
In our train game episode. This one's, it's an older game. Came out in 2004. We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast already. The BGA implementation, I think, is done actually pretty well. There's a lot of digital versions of Ticket to Ride. One of the best apps that I've played, it's just a standalone app, is the Ticket to Ride app. I've probably been playing that app for the longest of any game. And I'm sure I have hundreds of plays at this point, and there's all kinds of different expansions. So far, I think it's just the original map that's on BGA. But it's really good. So for those who don't know how to play, it's a set collection game. You're trying to complete routes across the United States. If you collect a set of colored cards that match a route, you can turn in those cards, claim that route. And once you've claimed a route that connects two cities together, you complete that. You don't reveal that you've completed that route until the end of the game, but you get those points. If you fail to complete a route, it's negative points at the end of the game. What I really like about Ticket to Ride is the tension that builds up, because you don't necessarily know where somebody else is going. They could get in your way. They could not get in your way. You don't know. There's a lot of strategy around that. There's a strategy around blocking if you want to play like a jerk, which is a very valid strategy in this game. And if you want to be successful, you probably should do a little bit of that. It's just a really fun, quick, easy game that's good for families. It's also good for gamers because it has that tension. It's a classic at this point, and I think BGA does a good job in their implementation.
I really like the timing that occurs in Ticket to Ride, in that there are times at which it's almost a push your luck kind of a feel of do I wait until next turn to lay these trains down and hope my optimal path is still available, or do I collect a couple more trains so that I can continue to lay a bunch and just complete my route? And that timing is really important. And I love the times in the game where somebody lays a route down and then everybody after it just goes like, oh, it starts this cascade effect of, oh, they're placing there, which means that I need to make sure that if I need to access that city, that I put something here, and then it goes back and forth and back and forth. And in our current iteration of our BGA game, I realized I played very poorly and got quickly blocked out of an area of the map that
it's a domino effect, right? Somebody adds a track and then everybody's fighting for everything around it. Yep. Yeah.
Quit blocking New York, Tyler.
Yeah.
You know, that
I
type
did?
of thing. No, you didn't. I don't think didn't do it on purpose, but that's a very busy part of the board at the moment.
It is.
Hopefully nobody else needs to go to New York.
and I've played the app version on my iPad for years. I really like that implementation. I like the BGA one even more.
One little nitpick about playing it on a phone or a touchscreen device is when I'm drawing cards from the top of the deck instead of selecting them. It doesn't work every time. So it's a little bit frustrating. It's like, is it going to select it this time? Is it? And then finally it'll do it. So there's a little bugginess there.
Yeah.
But on the computer, I don't think there's going to be any of those issues.
Nothing is as bad as Seven Wonders Duel on Board Game Arena. You have to click something like 7 times to get it to actually react to you interacting with it.
I found the trick on that, for me anyway, on the phone, is that you have to make sure that you're all the way zoomed out.
Okay.
And then it usually, the first try.
What if you have fat fingers, though?
Yeah.
Sausage fingers, like guys like that are screwed.
It's very problematic because I've had that issue where I'm like, I'm not zoomed out enough. Blood Rage has the same issue, like a bunch of games where there's drafting or things in it. I've had to press, like you said, 7 times or something like that. But that seems to work for me.
Seven Wonders Duel, I've got to the point where I'm like, I can't play. I have to go home onto my computer to finish this game, and so that, Ticket to Ride suffers from that a little bit, but for the most part, fantastic.
For me though, I like it on BGA better than the app, because back when Asmodee acquired Ticket to Ride like digital, I had the app, and then they like acquired it and my account got switched over and messed up. And so then I had to pay for the app again. And I was like, well, I'm not paying for this app again because I already had the app. Why are you making me get it? So I no longer have the app version of this game. So I'm glad that I have it on BGA
if
now.
you didn't like that, don't let your credit card that you use for Board Game Arena expire because they just make you.
But you have to pay for that one annually anyway. They increase
you do,
your
but
price.
you're gonna get the new price. Yeah, which it's still very affordable.
Still a good value, but
absolutely. But it made me laugh. Like, okay, really? That's how we're forcing people to to bump up, get them out of the grandfathered in price. Anyway.
So that is Ticket to Ride, and I guess the BGA version of Ticket to Ride.
Ooh, nice. All right. Did you have more games, Tyson?
I got no transition, so it's fine. Anyway.
We have faith in you. Go.
Transition.
Where's this train headed, Tyson?
What did you choose?
Well, on the next stop, we're headed to a game I played lately. Is Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated. So we've talked about Clank on the podcast already before, and Clank Legacy is more of that. So if you haven't played Clank, it's essentially some version of a dungeon or map in which players are delving into and trying to gather goods via deck building, and they're trying to get out with the most potential treasure they can without alerting the big bad. In regular Clank, it's a dragon. In Clank in Space, it's some cybertronic overlord kind of a guy. And so the game is you're going in and getting treasure without trying to make too much noise to alert the enemy of your presence. And Clank Legacy is exactly that. So if you like any of the Clank games, this is more of that. Now, I'll preface this by saying I've only played the first episode of this, or the first scenario of this, and I'm excited to play more. So as I play more, I'll keep you posted on that. But I played this game with our friends Ben and Greg, and we started a campaign of this a little bit ago, and I really liked what I saw so far of this game. It takes everything I like about Clank and then improves on the things that are maybe a little bit fiddly or finicky in the game and makes it better. One of the things that's really cool that I've found about Clank Legacy is that there is these objectives that you can go in and do. So you have your map just like any other Clank, and you're going and exploring it, but there are certain spots on your map that have not either been discovered or have like specific interaction points that have these quests that can be fulfilled that are available to everybody for the most part. But you have to usually acquire some sort of item or get something and then go into the space, interact with it, and then you're going to learn more about what you're going to do on your next quest and how it's going to proceed, and you get to make these choices that are pretty interesting so far of whether or not you're going to help certain people ally with witches or dukes or whatever, and who you're going to work with and give stuff to. And as you do that, you get to recruit these companions, as you do in normal, into your deck and work with these new companions that you're actually interacting with and creating a story with throughout the campaign. So this game has a lot that I already really like about it, and it still has all that tongue-in-cheek that you get from Clank. It's really fun little snippets on each card.
It's like Killer Bunnies, right?
Exactly. I
pop
have no
culture
idea.
references that are
If it's
just
like
hilarious.
Killer Bunnies, I'm never going to play
The
it.
gameplay is not like Killer Bunnies.
okay.
The pop culture references, and
Or like Munchkin, or like anything like that, where it's that satirical kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of fun stuff that's doing. And I really like that in this game in particular. But it has that tension and that building from game to game of improving your deck, improving the board, improving things. So far, like I've played a number of legacy games, and I think that from what I've seen thus far, this has the potential to be one of the best legacy games that I've experienced. And I think that it does all the right things that we've seen in other legacy games.
The thing that intrigues me the most is that once you play through the campaign, or once you play through all 10 games of the legacy game, you have a unique, replayable game of Clank Legacy. If you publish a legacy game, do that. Make it so you can replay the game after you've played through the legacy portion of the game, or the campaign type portion of the game, right?
Yeah, and I think Aeon's End Legacy, I think, does something similar where you're creating a breach mage, and then that breach mage is playable.
That's awesome.
In future games. It's like, whoa, that is so cool. So the fact that, you have a playable version of this game as well just seems pretty cool.
That's one of I think there's been a lot of debate as to what qualifies as a legacy game and what doesn't, right? Does the tearing up of cards, does the injecting new content in it, is that what it is? I think this, for me, is one of the key components of it, is having that experience, that uniqueness that creates a legacy that you can continue to play, that is unique to your game. And I think that to me is one of those stand apart things. So otherwise it's just a campaign game to me. Like, it ends up being a campaign that, okay, we can go run through the campaign again.
Yeah, you can reset it to exactly how it was before and you just do it again. That's a campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
But that to me is what makes a legacy game. And I love that. I think like the pandemics do that well. I think that that's why I don't necessarily think that like Gloomhaven is a legacy game. Some people have argued that Gloomhaven is a legacy game. To me, that's a campaign game with some minor legacy components if you so choose, because you don't even have to rip up cards in like Gloomhaven and things like that.
I have a copy of this game as well, so it's fresh and still in shrink wrap. So
hey, we should start a legacy.
We could.
Legacy campaign.
I'd be fine to be in multiple legacy campaigns.
You have an unfair advantage.
Yep.
Unfair
Kevin
advantage.
doesn't like when people have unfair advantages. Do you know how many times I've tried to play Scythe with Kevin? Rise of Fenris? Nope.
Tyler does not need any more
I played it like 3 years ago. I don't remember anything.
You remember everything. You study that book every night.
I will say that after having only played the first episode or whatever they're called in Clank Legacy, there's not a lot different. So I don't know that there's any actual advantage. And I don't know that I did the optimal things, and I don't know what the optimal things would be.
No, you're still excluded.
Yeah, you still got to have a leg up.
Wow. I didn't realize that we were an exclusive group here.
No, I may make an exception. So
yeah, so that was Clank Legacy, Acquisitions Incorporated.
All right, so another game that I've been playing a ton lately is Nova Luna. And if you listen to our Origins episode, we talked about Nova Luna briefly. It was the first game we played at the convention. We're walking down the hall before the doors opened, and Tobin from the Midwest somewhere, he's like, hey, do you guys want to play a game? And so we sit down with Tobin. He teaches us Nova Luna. We play it. Life-changing experience. Okay?
Agreed. It was amazing.
It was amazing. This game is awesome. It is, the theme is just dripping off the box. Not really. This is Nova Luna. It was published in 2019. Designed by Uwe Rosenberg and Corne von Morsel. And the artist is Lucas Siegmann. It reimplements Habitats, if you've played that, and it's also already been reimplemented by Framework, which I've looked at Framework. The art isn't appealing to me. I'm going to stick with Nova Luna. It's on Board Game Arena in alpha. It has the most approvals. Don't think it's going to be very long before it's available either in beta or production on Board Game Arena. Anyway, this game is hard to find in the States. I ordered a copy off of Amazon DE, and it just showed up today. I have been playing a lot on Board Game Arena, but now I've got the physical copy. There's not any theme to this game, right? On your turn, you're drawing these little tiles that have different colored dots on them. And then you're trying to add other tiles on subsequent turns that will fulfill those dot requirements. So if a yellow tile has a circle with a red dot on it, you need to place one red tile adjacent to that yellow tile. To complete that red dot, you put a little disc and cover it up. Whoever gets rid of 20 discs first wins. Some cards have multiple circles with many different combinations of dots. And it's got the mechanic kind of like from Patchwork, where when you draw the tile, you advance on the circle and you may pass other people up, and then they'll draw until they've passed you up. And so you're leapfrogging over each other, taking turns. It's not always just clockwise order, right? Really fun game. I love the puzzle that this game creates. I love trying to find just the perfect layout. I've had combinations where I played one tile and completed up to 5 different dots or circles of dots in one tile play. And I had one game where I did that back to back in 2 turns, and it was awesome. I just really like the puzzle that this game presents and the choices that are given. Just an awesome game.
Yes, sometimes on BGA, you put a tile down and you complete something you didn't even know you were completing.
Which is also a good feeling.
Which is a good part. BGA does a good job of that, obviously, and it's going to keep track of that for you. So when I play the physical version, I wonder how many I'm missing,
Yeah.
And one thing that I don't think you mentioned in the rules is that if you get a row or a branching row of the same color,
oh, right,
it's going to count as well. So it doesn't have to be exactly adjacent to the tile, as long as there's a continuous row. If you need 3 red, for example, if you have 3 red that are branching off of that tile, it's going to complete it, which that adds a little bit more strategy to it as well.
Yeah, and it does.
It's funny, the Uwe Rosenberg games, he loves to reuse his mechanics.
Yeah, he does. That circular drawing mechanic.
It's interesting, and it makes for interesting decisions. Do I take this tile that's easier to complete but moves me further along the track and I won't be able to get more tiles? Or do I take one that's just the opposite? I move just one space, but it's super hard to complete. That decision is fun.
I love when you have like 4 or 5 tiles next to each other of one color that are chained together, and then you draw easy tiles that require 4 or 3 of that color, and it's like, oh, easy point, easy point.
Yeah, I love that as well, because it's really nice to get that feeling when I play a low number tile and then I can have a turn immediately after as well, because I've played it and I don't go far enough along that track, so I'm on top of the next disc or whatever, so it's my turn again. So I can do that and get a point, and then I can jump and chain something else to get a larger point. And because you can see what tiles you're going to be able to choose from, if you're able to go back to back, you can form these strategies to create big chains and big combos that allow you to get a lot more discs, a lot more, and it allows you to jump ahead in points quicker than you otherwise would.
And it also has a hate drafting aspect. You can look at someone else's player board and be like, oh, they need a blue tile. I'm going to take that blue tile because it is the same value to me as the other 2 available.
Or I'm going to jump over it.
Yeah.
So they can't get it.
Or that, yes.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was thinking like the degree of complexity and the feeling that the game gives me is akin to like Azul.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Like it gives me those same types of vibes. But I don't think that hate drafting is as prevalent as in Azul. So like if you think that the hate drafting is too much in Azul, this is there. You can do that, but it's not as I don't look at anybody else's, and I almost ever, and I feel like I pretty competitive most of the time when I'm playing.
I think when I look back on my early plays of Azul, I wasn't looking at anybody else's board. So I think it's one of those things where you gradually start picking up more and more and going a little bit deeper into the game and the strategy there. So
you're not going to stick somebody with 5 black tiles. It's going
you're not
going to get them negative 10 points. It's not that drastic,
right?
But you can put them in a bad spot where they have a tile they can do nothing with, right? In Nova Luna.
Yeah. I do hate when you go to draw and on your turn and it's like a 7, a 6, and a 7 value tile. And you're like, great, I have to take one of these tiles. I'm moving 6 or 7 spaces. And now I'm not going to have a turn while other people draw 2 or 3 more tiles. That's frustrating. When someone takes a tile and there's only 2 tiles left, then they can refill the circle. But when there's still 3 tiles, you can't refill yet. And that's also frustrating when there's kind of junk out there and it's like, oh, great, I guess I'm stuck with this. But Kevin or Tyson's now going to get to refill and have a
But that refill is interesting too, because there are times at which you're like at 2 tiles and it's almost a push your luck.
Right. Yeah.
Do I refill? Because I can get discs out.
Yeah, you don't have to refill. You can choose to
like,
not.
I shouldn't have done that because I have a worse option now.
Undo.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's amazing the amount of depth in this game.
That's exactly what I was
The more you
just
play
say.
it, the more you see how much strategy is in it for such a simple rule set.
Right. And I think for that reason, it is so similar to Azul in my mind, because Azul is so simple. The mechanics are so simple, but yet there is a depth of strategy there that you don't really realize until you get it to the table over and over again.
Yeah. And the fact that it's on BGA offers you that opportunity as well, that like it's fantastic. I'm sure I haven't played it on the table, but like I would love to play this one on the table. And I think there's things that I'll see that I don't see on BGA as much, but I love that it's on BGA, and it was so quick to learn on BGA. I don't even think I read the rules. I think I just started playing, and then the strategies emerged as I started. And then I was like, oh, that's exactly why I got points for this. That's why I didn't get it for that. And like, I didn't even have to read the rules at all. And I got into this game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. If you want to play it and you don't have alpha access on BGA, send me an invite or message me on Board Game Arena, join our Discord, message me on Discord. I'd happily create a game and invite you. So that is Nova Luna. And I think that about wraps up what we've been playing lately. What should we do now? What do you guys want to talk about?
So it's been a great year. We've had a lot of amazing moments, a lot of things that we wouldn't have experienced without doing a podcast, right? And we wanted to talk about some of those experiences that we've had this past year. So who wants to kick it off?
I think Tyson should.
All right, Tyson.
All right. So I came up with a number of moments that were special to me from this podcast doing it that I didn't get from other experiences. So I don't have any of these like in particular order or anything like that. But one of the ones that stands out to me is we've just had a lot of time to like laugh together. There's a lot of like bloopers and a lot of things that between us, I think for us as the podcast hosts, I feel like we've been able to get closer together and we've been able to improve our own relationships because we like playing games a lot, obviously. And obviously we talk about those all the time here, but sometimes before we had the podcast, we weren't always talking about the other things. And this opportunity, I think, has given us more chances to do that and understand better what our likes are and what our dislikes are so that the game, when we have game night as well, it improves the experience that we have with game night.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm kind of sick of you at this point.
Ouch. All right.
I'm just kidding,
Brutal.
Tyson. I'm just kidding.
Well, I guess
You're welcome.
this was the last episode that I'll be on.
You're welcome in my home.
No, Tyson, I'm just kidding. I completely agree with everything you said. It's been awesome getting to know you guys better and playing games and sometimes feeling like we have to play games, for the podcast, but still just enjoying the heck out of it and just having a great time playing. It's been fun.
So I think it's crazy just thinking back on how this all started. We would play games, and then after the game was played, we would sit and talk about it for an hour, and sometimes we'd finish a game at 11 and 12:30, people are still at the host's house and still talking. And I think at some point it was like, why don't we just do a podcast?
let's record this.
And I think at first it was like, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, whatever. But then like 3 weeks later, we were recording our first episode, and then we just haven't looked back, really. I mean, there were a couple of rocky moments and some gaps, but I don't know. It's just been awesome. And it's been so much fun. Like you said, Tyson, just laughing. I mean, not even just the bloopers, but the conversations that we've had. And it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed it.
Agreed. So one thing that has happened this past year that probably wouldn't have happened for me, if I'm to be honest, was the opportunity to go to Origins. It was such a fun, amazing experience. Wish you could have been there, Tyson. But I was able to go with Tyler and our good buddy Ben. It was so much fun being there in our podcast t-shirts. We brought stickers that we were just handing out to people, hey, I know you haven't heard of us, but hey, we've got a podcast. We've got a QR code on the back. Why don't you give us a listen? I played games. I played an awesome game of Star Trek Ascendancy. It was amazing. First time I'd played that, and then started talking about the podcast with those guys. They're like, oh yeah, cool. I'll give it a listen. Who knows if those guys actually listen or not, but it was just fun talking about it, playing games with people and saying, hey, if you're interested, then give us a listen type of thing. It was cool.
We got some review copies.
Yeah. Moonrakers, which we did a feature review of.
The food was amazing. I got to play Undaunted with David Thompson. We got to hang out with the Rolling Dice and Taking Names crowd and Marty. And I don't know, it was a fun experience. I had a blast.
German food place.
Oh my gosh,
Schmitz. Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's worth flying into Columbus just to go to Schmitz.
Yep, absolutely. I can't wait to go there again.
Yeah, I can't either. That's a must stop for sure if you go to Columbus. It was great.
I also enjoyed the math trade. I'd never done a math trade before. It was a little frustrating at times, but it was a cool experience, and I got to get rid of some games that I've been looking to get rid of, and got some games that I was excited about, so that was cool too.
Yeah, Ben and I went to a kind of introductory painting class, which Ben immediately, I think, went and bought a bunch of stuff. I don't think I am going to get into it, but it was cool, and it was really fun to get some to like learn from somebody who really knows what they're doing. He passed around some of his minis that he'd painted. I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
This looks so cool, And I would love to have painted minis. I don't want to put the work into it, I don't think, but I would love to have them.
I went to a TI4 learning session that I signed up for. Yeah. I got a good nap in. And it wasn't the guy that was teaching it. It was some of the people around the table were a little bit slow, and
even by longest turn standards.
Yes. It was a long time before we actually started playing the first round of the game, and a good 15, 20 minutes between turns. So I got some good nappage in during that.
Big power grid was awesome.
Yep.
Well, go back to our Origins recap episode, I guess, if you want more details. But it was just it was something that I don't think would have happened without the podcast, and I'm really happy it did. So it's one of the cool things.
So one of my favorite moments was in episode 10. We were doing what we've been playing lately. And Kevin, usually we know what games we're going to be talking about. They're on our little spreadsheet for the episode. And Kevin pulled this one out of the blue, Monster Crunch. And I just kind of lost it. My reaction was totally raw and authentic. And it just
like, we're really talking about this? I'm like, yeah, we are.
Yeah. That was just hilarious. I thought that was such a fun little thing that he threw in. I don't know. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. And we actually had a conversation about it.
We did.
we had meaningful things to say about Monster Crunch, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's actually
a game in there.
A substantial amount of game in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Ladder games that we've learned.
Tyler does not love.
Spicy. You love Spicy. It's a ladder game.
Spicy is
There's not a lot of depth to it, but it's just fun.
It's ladder with bluffing in it. I think without the bluffing, you would not like Spicy at all.
I don't think I would. But I love that we have two tables playing separate games, and after those games finish, a couple people leave. Whatever's left, we get to the table with Spicy. That's a great way to carry on after the main courses of the night. Speaking of main courses, I know this one's coming. Where is it? Come on, guys.
Well, one thing that I learned this past year about Tyler, he has a certain affinity for game pieces and eating those game pieces. So I will never forget the game that we played of Praga. Looking over the table at Tyler, fear in his eyes. He knows how I feel about my games, and he had one of those game pieces in his mouth.
No,
he was
pulled it out at that point.
Who knows how many he had eaten at that point, right? It could have been 5, 10. He claims it's 1.
Okay, let's talk about it just to air it out there for any new listeners that we may have.
Right.
We are playing a very intense game of Praga Caput Regni, one that I believe I went on to winning by a large margin. So
I was focused. I'm
Yep.
completely distracted by other things.
There
at that
is
point.
a tray. I mean, Kevin has a very nice game table. I've got M&Ms in my tray. I've got my eggs that I've collected in my tray. I was just focused on the game, and I put one. I didn't even put it all the way in my mouth. I bit down on it, realized that it was not an M&M, and I pulled it out. And Kevin looked up at me, and I had a look of just fear, and I don't know. I was laughing too, like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Kevin's gonna be upset.
I don't think I would have been upset. It was just, how is this even
really
happening?
It was just the meta within the game.
Yeah.
I was just trying to throw you off.
You mentioned you won by a considerable margin. I was, for the rest of the game, worried about my game.
Traumatized.
I could not concentrate anymore.
And to be fair, I took that egg home. I swapped it out with one of my eggs from my copy of the game and gave you a new egg to replace it.
Yes, you did.
And I traded that game in the math trade. So somewhere, some dude has a copy of my Praga Caput Regni with a tooth mark in it. In one of the eggs.
So you have, So whoever has that, you win.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about that for the 15th time, we could probably move on in year 2 from that story.
Let's put that to rest.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if there's a new game you decide to start eating, we're going to bring that up again. But Praga, that's done.
You guys may not know this, but since then, anytime we're playing a game and there's like M&Ms or food on the table, I've been trying to slide pieces into piles of your guys' pieces so that you might create the same experience.
Well, the difference between us and you is, we pay attention.
I was focused on winning the game.
Food, not bits.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of bits, you just recently got some Clans bits, right? And the cheese
looks delicious.
Exactly like cheese. They're actually really cool.
They're nice.
Really cool.
They're
bits.
awesome. Dan had those. They were from Top Shelf Gamer. Yep, they are. I was gifted those by my wife, and
nice.
They're awesome.
So make sure not to bring a charcuterie board to game
We'll
night.
see how long those last.
Yeah, I do love cheese. Cheese is my favorite.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good.
So one of the things that is my favorite is the experience that we've generated with certain episodes in our podcast that I really enjoy. I love when we do like a feature type of a theme or an experience type of an episode where we have the train episode that we did where we talked about and got to play all sorts of different train games that otherwise I wouldn't normally do. And I feel excited by doing that. Or we've done like the Halloween episode, or we did the Lord of the Rings episode. And like, I like when
movies episode.
Yeah. Or the movies episode, right? Like I like going in and having those experiences and then focusing on a thing, whatever parameter we've put up, and then just kind of diving into that and looking at things that I wouldn't otherwise get to see. Like there's a lot of train games that I wouldn't have played if we hadn't had done that train
Railways
game
of the
episode.
World.
Yeah. And Railways of the World has ended up being one of my most favorite games that I've played this year. And I love that about that game. And I don't think without that episode, we would have gotten as much of that type of an experience out of it. And so those opportunities to really dive into like different niches within the hobby are exciting and fun to me. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Really quick, one of my favorite moments, we go back to the sleeving episode. Tyson's $52 sleeves that he had me pick up at Origins. Yeah, that
48. All right.
$48 for sleeves.
No, it was $13
He
a
was
pack.
not pro sleeve.
Yeah, Tyson is not the sleever in the group.
That was
and
funny.
that episode was just a lot of fun, where we discussed the virtues of sleeving or not sleeving your games, and we just had a good time talking about those expensive Eschaton sleeves.
It's interesting that you used the word virtue. I mean, it wasn't the most virtuous of conversations.
No, it wasn't.
Unintentionally. And so a lot of that content did not get released because we like to be a family-friendly podcast. And it was
There were innuendos coming out of Tyson's mouth every other word, and he just kept
The hole kept getting deeper and deeper, and it was not. Yeah, it was unintentional, but I don't know if I've laughed that hard.
Yeah, I couldn't
for a long
breathe.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They couldn't even make the outtakes. Like we said, it's a family show, but
And you kept trying to recover, and it just kept getting worse and worse. Oh my gosh.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Sorry we can't speak in more detail about that, but really, family show. So, yeah. One other thing that I just think has been really cool about the podcast is the interactions that we've had with listeners, with designers, with publishers. It's so cool when we would reference Anachrony or something on our blog, and David Turtsey would respond. The fact that he's reading our comments or potentially listening to the show. I don't know if he does or not, but it's just really cool to build this community that didn't exist before.
Yep.
And then now it does. And it's a place where people can come and talk about games. We're on our Discord talking with people throughout the day. It's just really fun and really cool. And I look forward to the time when we can go to a convention and we can meet some people that have listened to our podcast, you know, and we can do a meetup. There's other podcasts that do meetups, Secret Cabal, or we mentioned Rolling Dice and Taking Names. I want to do a longest turn meetup
At Schmidt's.
At Schmidt, amazing. Let's do it at Schmidt's and meet some people that we've interacted with already, digitally and virtually, and meet those people in person. I just think that's just so cool.
I loved at Origins. We have our blue logo, but then Kevin wears yellow. I have an orange one. Tyson's is purple, Ben's is green.
Yep.
And so we had different colored shirts at Origins, and there was one publisher that was like, man, I've been seeing tons of you guys walk around, or tons of people walking around with your shirts on. Really, it was just Kevin, Ben, and I wearing different shirt colors each day, which that just made me laugh. But
you guys are everywhere. It's like, no, we just walk around a lot.
That was hilarious. That just made me laugh so hard.
Similar to what you were just saying, though, Kevin, that for me, one of the special things has been that community that has developed. We have a small little community that I really appreciate, that we've on our Discord server and like through BGA, like we've created we've interacted with a bunch of people who have similar desires and passions as us and like to play the same types of games as us. We've had conversations where people have either disagreed or agreed with us, and I enjoy those interactions and like having those conversations, and then getting to play all these different games on BGA with people and just like sharing with them. I've developed some what I'd call friendships with people that I otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to develop outside of that. And I too, Kevin, would love to have an opportunity to have a time where we could meet up and just play a game physically at the table with some of these people that we've encountered and grown closer with. I've loved that a lot. So, I mean, all of that to say thank you to everybody who is listening and supporting the podcast in any degree and engaging with us. We enjoy doing this, and I think that we're going to continue doing this so long as people keep on continuing to listen to it.
So one of the other things that we wanted to do was we wanted to rank our favorite feature review games. So over the course of the last year, we did 10 feature reviews of different games where we talked extensively about the production quality, things we liked and disliked about the gameplay, and then we gave our final ratings. So really quick, those games are Ankh, Gods of Egypt, Praga, Caput, Regni, Railways of the World, Anachrony, Aeon's End, Dead Reckoning, Carnegie, Moonrakers, Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, and Cthulhu Death May Die. I don't think I missed any. Those are the 10 games that we did feature reviews of, okay? So we wanted to just really quick, using PubMeeple, I don't know how well this is going to work. Maybe it'll get cut, but we wanted to rank the games. So
do it live.
Yep, and do it live. And we've also ranked them individually. So we each kind of have our top 5s as well that we'll just mention, all right? Okay, so the first comparison is Ankh versus Praga. I don't think there's any argument there. Yeah. Okay.
Ankh's moving on.
Okay. Next one. Moonrakers versus Anachrony.
Anachrony. Yeah.
Yes, I agree, but Moonrakers is awesome. We'll come back.
Not saying it's a bad game, but Anachrony is clearly.
Well, you guys were a little quick there. I felt like there should have been a little bit larger of a pause.
Any game that's compared with Anachrony is going to be quick.
Okay. Here's the tough one. The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth versus Carnegie. Carnegie. I agree. Man, worse. Okay. Ankh, Gods of Egypt versus Dead Reckoning. I would say Dead Reckoning. I think I know where at least one of you will go, but what do you think, Tyson?
Ankh. For me, I like Dead Reckoning a lot, but I said in the review that we did, I haven't played it nearly as much. I
need some more plays.
See myself really loving Dead Reckoning, but as it stands, I love Ankh.
All right, we're 1-1. Kevin, tiebreaker?
Dead Reckoning.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're going to go Dead Reckoning.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
That surprised me.
It did surprise me. Yeah. All right. Ooh, this is a good one for Kevin. I'll let you go first. Railways of the World versus Aeon's End.
Aeon's End.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't played Aeon's End, and it's cooperative. So, I mean, I have to say Railways of the World. It's cooperative.
Yeah, Tyson. Yeah. Okay.
Tiebreaker.
Gosh, I'm not. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Aeon's End on this one. I've kind of cooled on Railways of the World. It's kind of dropped a little bit for me, I think. All right. Ooh, Anachrony versus Cthulhu Death May Die.
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
I like the hesitation this is creating.
Oh my gosh.
I can tell you what mine is Anachrony, simply because I love Anachrony for its theme. I mean, I love Cthulhu Death May Die for its theme, but Anachrony is more of a unique theme to me, and I'm a sucker for side time travel, and it's worker placement. Plus, competitive, it's going to get slightly higher for me anyway. So
it's not cooperative.
Like I love Cthulhu Death May Die, but
for me, I think because Cthulhu Death May Die is fresh in my mind, it's been a little bit since I played Anachrony. I got to go with Cthulhu Death May Die.
This is almost an impossible decision for me. Right. Like, how do you? It's like choosing between kids. Like, which is your favorite kid, right? I don't. I think ultimately I have to go with Anachrony.
Okay.
Because it is, it's just such an amazing game. I have a great time playing it. Every time I play, there's so much content. Throwing in different modules completely changes up the game. There's still stuff we haven't explored yet. It's in the Infinity Box and all the bits and pieces. There's just so much to love about it. So much to love about Cthulhu Death May Die as well. Yeah. But I think Anachrony just squeaks it out for me.
Okay. All right. So Anachrony won that. Moonrakers versus Cthulhu Death May Die.
Cthulhu Death May Die.
Yeah, I agree. Dead Reckoning versus Carnegie. This one's okay. Like, Carnegie has gone up for me since we did the initial review. I'm going to go with Dead Reckoning still, but this is a lot closer for me than I would have said a month or two ago.
I'm going to go with, I agree with you on Carnegie. Like, when we first started playing it on BGA, and this was a year before the Kickstarter fulfilled, I'm like, I don't know if I even like this game.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm excited for the Kickstarter to arrive. Then the Kickstarter arrived. It had it would completely change the experience playing it physically on the table. It had that gear that you could potentially murder somebody with because it was just so beefy, that, and it's just very tactile. There's so much variability to the game in all the offices. Dead Reckoning's got a really cool theme. I love the pirate theme is awesome.
You got two Ian O'Toole art games going
Both
against
have
each
Ian
other.
O'Toole.
Good point.
I'm going to go with Carnegie, I think.
Okay.
It's easy for me. It's Dead Reckoning. I like Carnegie. I enjoy it. While you two have seemed to gain more affection for it after the review, I've kind of
fizzled on it a little
I
bit?
wouldn't even say fizzled, but I've plateaued.
Okay.
I like it about the same where I liked it before, but I don't see myself really loving it more as opposed to Dead Reckoning. The more I will play that one, the more I can see myself loving.
Cool. All right. Next up. So that was Dead Reckoning 1.
Yes. Dead Reckoning 1, yes.
Dead Reckoning 1.
Yes.
So next up, we've got Ankh, Gods of Egypt versus Carnegie. Ankh for me.
Yeah.
It's Ankh for me.
Yeah. We're going to go Ankh there.
Praga, Caput, Regni, which we've seen once, versus Carnegie. It's Carnegie for me.
Carnegie.
Hands down.
I think this one's Praga for me.
Ooh. Wow. Praga.
Yeah.
The King's Road. All right.
Again, this is one where I think where you guys have cooled on Praga, I haven't cooled on Praga the way that you have. But I don't think that we're going to really play it again because the only people I'd play with this one would be you guys.
I would still revisit it on Yukata. We're going to talk about it.
Let's play it on Yukata. Yeah, let's play it on Yukata.
Yeah, okay.
I would revisit it. I mean, we've played it a lot, so
we have.
All right, so Carnegie won that. Okay, now we're going to Praga, Caput Regni versus Journeys of Middle Earth.
Praga.
Easy.
These are the two bottom of the barrel ones for me. So Praga beats out. But all right, Anachrony versus Aeon's End. Anachrony.
It's easy for me because I haven't played Aeon's End. So Anachrony.
Anachrony. Yeah, Anachrony.
Cthulhu, Death May Die, Aeon's End. Cthulhu for me.
Cthulhu.
Moonrakers versus Aeon's End. I'm interested to see what you guys say.
I don't know how
to
answer this one.
Yeah.
It's got to be Moonrakers.
It has to be Moonrakers for me, but I would actually, based off of everything I've heard, I could actually see myself liking Aeon's End more than I liked Moonrakers.
You were a little low on Moonrakers during the review.
It's Aeon's End for me.
It's Moonrakers for me, but you're going with Aeon's End, Tyson?
No, I'm going with Moonrakers.
Okay,
I can't not.
Moonrakers. Aeon's End. This is heresy.
All right.
Heresy. Oh my gosh.
Anachrony versus Dead Reckoning.
Anachrony.
It pains me to say this, but Anachrony.
Oh, wow. That surprises me.
If you said Dead Reckoning, that surprises you?
With how much he loves
love Dead Reckoning. It is
that's true, but
a fantastic game.
Okay.
All right. Cthulhu, Death May Die, Dead Reckoning.
Cthulhu,
Death May Die.
I'm just going to have to go with Cthulhu as well. All right. Dead Reckoning.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Moonrakers. Dead Reckoning for me.
Oh, definitely Dead Reckoning.
Yeah. Dead Reckoning. Yeah.
All right. Ankh, Moonrakers.
Ankh.
Yeah, Ankh. Carnegie, Moonrakers.
Carnegie for me, actually.
Okay. I think Carnegie for me as well.
Yeah, Carnegie.
All right. Now we're just voting the same. Moonrakers versus Praga. Tyson?
It's Praga for me.
Oof. It's Moonrakers for me.
Moonrakers.
I knew that was going to be
I love the negotiations that happen within Moonrakers, and I can't wait for the new Kickstarter to fulfill with the new expansions. I am excited to get this back to the table.
Yeah, it was unique. Our group hadn't played a game like that before, and it worked with the group. I thought it was fun. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it's not a perfect game by any means.
No.
But I enjoyed it. All right. Aeon's End versus Praga.
Again, I have to choose Praga.
I'm going to go.
Aeon's End.
I'll go with Aeon's End on this
I
one.
would suspect that in this case, I would probably. I don't know. I could see Aeon's End winning out against this, but I don't know.
It's Aeon's End just kind of at a disadvantage where you haven't played.
Right.
It. All right. Railways of the World versus Praga.
Railways.
Railways.
Yeah, Railways.
All right, that's it. So here's how they rank. Number 10, Lord of the Rings, Journeys of Middle-earth. Not a surprise to anybody. Number 9, Praga, Caput, Regni. Number 8, Railways of the World. How do you feel about that, Kevin?
It's not surprising.
Okay.
Considering your hatred of the game.
Hatred.
Yeah.
I said it.
You changed
I cooled it a little bit.
You totally take that. Yeah.
7, Aeon's End.
Boo.
That's a product of Tyson not playing it.
I feel worse about that than Railways. Aeon's End is
I think it, to be fair, I think it deserves to be higher on that list. I just can't vote for it.
It makes sense that it's there, though.
All right. Number 6, Moonrakers. No surprise there, other than maybe it could have been a little bit lower. Number 5, Carnegie. Number 4, Ankh, Gods of Egypt. Number 3, Dead Reckoning. Number 2, Cthulhu Death May Die. And by popular vote, number 1, Anachrony. So
Not bad.
That's how our feature reviews shape up.
I'm interested to see now how we vary individually.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Should we start at number 5?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start. My number 5 is Dead Reckoning.
I like that. My number 5 is Praga, Caput, Regni.
My number 5 is Carnegie, exactly like we just picked.
My number 4, Railways of the World.
Hey, me too. Railways of the World, number 4 for me.
Hey, all right. You're going to make it a
misjudged
trifecta?
that
Yeah,
one.
and it's 8 on the the overall list.
It's 8 on the yep. That was 8 on my personal list.
That didn't even make my list. How is that possible? It's 11.
I deleted it from the list. Number 4 for me, similar to our popular vote, is Ankh, Gods of Egypt. I'm 2 for 2 so far.
That's number 4, huh?
Yeah.
You're somehow manipulating these results.
Okay, number 3 for me is Aeon's End.
Number 3 for me is Cthulhu, Death May Die.
Number 3 for me is Dead Reckoning.
Oh, okay. Number 2 for me is Cthulhu, Death May Die.
2 for me is Anachrony.
Number 2 for me is Anachrony.
Okay.
And
number 1, Anachrony for me.
It's Ankh, Gods of Egypt for me.
Cthulhu, Death May Die. So I had everything the same as our group, except for I had number 2, Anachrony, and number 1, Death May Die swapped.
Coincidentally, you were also the one operating the public poll,
my entries were genuine. Should we jump into our Ankh look back?
Let's do it.
So exactly 1 year ago, like I said previously, we reviewed Ankh, Gods of Egypt. It was our first episode, first game we reviewed. We all gave it 5s at the time. A couple of us, I think, were a little iffy on our 5s. Let's talk about how many times we've played this game in the last year since we reviewed it. Tyson, how many times have you played it?
I think, I'm not positive, but I think I've only played this game one additional time since we last played it, and I believe that was at our Cabin Con. So one of the things with this game that I find difficult is it can be hard to get to the table because of the size of the game and because of everything it entails. Some people this game may not be right for it because of the high conflict. There's a lot of people who don't necessarily like this merging god mechanic, and that can be diversifying, especially if you're playing with somebody new and they don't really understand the value of merging. I think that it can be alienating. So it can be hard, I think, to get this game to the table with new people. And then with us, it can be hard to get to the table in general just because we have so many other games that we're trying to play. But I don't think that takes away from the value of this game. For me, I rated this originally as a 5 when we originally reviewed this, and obviously based off of our
Rankings
we just did, it's no surprise that this game, if it's my number 1 of everything we've reviewed this last year, it stays as a 5 for me. And if I could, I would increase this one. And there's so much more that I want to explore in this game. I love the Pharaoh expansion. I want to play that more. I want to get more out of that. This is my style of game in general. I love conflict. I love troops on a map. I love interacting with these figures and coming up with these tactical decisions. I like that there is this bluffing element or this reading the table, understanding what's going on. There's a lot in this game that I love. I will always want to play this game, given any opportunity. I just think sometimes it's hard to get to the table, and that's the biggest downside for me. So the other thing that I would mention is, where does this stand in my collection? Well, I backed this one. I owned a copy and I traded it away because we all had copies and my copy was the most inferior copy. Like, I didn't go all in on this one, so I didn't have all the blinged out stuff with it. So I ended up trading this one away because of what I just said. I didn't think mine was going to get to the table ever, because I wasn't going to play this game probably with anybody but us here. And as a result, I traded it away, but that does not reflect how much I like this game.
Do you regret trading it away? Because you can play with your kids eventually.
Sometimes, right? I have, but I wouldn't have ever played it. Like
it'd be years before.
Yeah,
it
would be literal years before I could actually get a copy played. Now, will I regret it when it's inaccessible at the time at which I want to play this with my kids? That may be an issue. Yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd keep it at a 5.
So Tyler and I recently played it this past week with Mark. I think it was just me, you, and Mark, right?
And Logan.
Logan, yeah, obviously Logan there. So we had a 4-player game. So that was this past week. So I've played it one time since the feature review. So similar to what you've said, Tyson, it's difficult to get to the table. It is a big game. And it's just a little bit harder.
And not everybody in our group likes this game.
Right. Yeah. So if you have, I think Dan didn't have a great first play and he said he didn't like it a lot.
Never looked back.
Yeah. So, you got to get the right group together in order to play it. I had the game that we played last week was probably my least favorite play that we've had that I've had so far. And it had some unique things happen to it that I hadn't experienced before. So I was part of the merge, which I've been part of the merge before. We had a game where we merged, fantastic. And it was an amazing experience. I merged this time, and it was the first time I'd been the lower of the two. And you lose when you're the lower of the two. You lose all your monuments. You lose your position on all the Ankh tracks. You share those with the higher god, and then all the followers go to the higher god as well. My strategy was getting monuments out onto the board, and it didn't work very well, right? Because I was the lowest. But I had probably 5 or 6 monuments out on the board that were completely wiped away. And my whole strategy of that game was just gone like that. And I merged with Logan. I'm like, okay, I got to reset. Logan, what are you trying to do? He had 1 monument out on the board. His Ankh powers that he had chosen were different than mine. I had a complete reset. And Tyler at that point was almost to the top of the track anyway. So basically the game was over at that point. It didn't feel good to be that lower god and then not have what I had worked for the whole game. And I hadn't experienced that before. So I realize and I understand more of the criticism that some people may have, that they don't like that, because it wasn't a great experience, right?
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
So when you're talking about that, and even when we played, I was thinking about it. I think if the game had been more fresh and this wasn't your first play in a long time, I think it creates that opportunity before the merge happens to talk about, hey, Logan, it looks like we're going to merge. I've got tons of monuments. I don't want to lose all these. Is it beneficial to us so that for you to end up lower than me on the point track, right? And I think we've talked about it before. When the merge is about to happen, even before the merge happens, there's interesting decisions there of, do I want to merge? If I'm going to merge, where in the merge do I want to be? Do I want to be the
opportunity?
Right. What's the best for us as a merged god? And I'm not taking away from what you said, because I think what you said is valid, and there was an issue, right? like that is frustrating when you've got all these monuments and they're taken away and your strategy is changed. And I think also it was discouraging that I was the only one that got Ankh, the third level Ankh powers before the third conflict. And I had both of them, and during that third conflict, I just shot up like crazy. So I think,
which is another thing that I thought about, that do you have to get to that third level to be competitive? Right. And it almost seems like you do.
I think you need,
right.
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. I think it varies between player counts, but I think you need at least one of them by the time you enter the third conflict.
I think so too. And if you don't get there for whatever reason, it's your choice if you get there or not, right? It's not like you're locked out of taking that Ankh action.
Right.
It's your choice. So I guess if you choose to go a different route and not focus on that, you're going to be in a bad spot. Right. So you have to get up there.
I don't want to take away what you're saying, because I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I think it creates more decisions and conversation of, hey, how should we merge? Do I want to be the one merging?
At the same time, the way that the battles play out, you may not necessarily get what you're planning for. Right. I talked to you one time.
It is fun to try and manipulate though.
Yeah. I talked to you one time. It's like, hey, let's merge.
Yeah.
And then I jumped over, and then you were merging with somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
You could totally be bluffing.
And you could be bluffing.
I knew it. I knew you were bluffing.
If it ends up though, that you are, in the end, just the way that the game plays out, even if you're trying to manipulate that system and you lose a bunch of stuff, it doesn't feel great.
Yeah,
that's kind of my
that's the critique that like I understand as well. I think Dan, even when he played it, had that exact same experience where everything he had been working towards had just disappeared. Like he had nothing left.
Yeah. And that was our first play. And
correct.
Yep. We didn't know the nuances.
And that absolutely, I don't disagree with you. That can be a bad feeling in any game. Having everything taken away from you feels bad.
Yep.
I don't think that it's an insurmountable thing. But when you haven't played the game in a long time, or it's your first time playing the game, and you're not as fresh on it, you're going to have that bad feeling if that happens to you each time that were to happen. So for me, you need to play this game at more regular intervals to be able to understand the nuance, because the nuance is important in this game.
Yeah, and you are given advantages as being a merged god. Right? You can take two of the same actions back to back potentially, which is hugely powerful. Right. And normally you can't do that. You got to go from top to bottom on that action track. That's awesome. You have two powers that you can manipulate.
Draw from, absolutely.
You have two minds thinking about how to win the game instead of one, which if you collaborate with somebody, you're gonna have an advantage.
Which can be intimidating to the other player.
Right.
Which in this past game, that didn't matter because the game was over already, right? But normally if it's a closer difference, then that creates an exciting scenario at the end. It just so happened that this game was not like that, and it was a little bit deflating.
But even with the lead that I had, you guys still shot up the track as a merged gods.
Well, it was a consolation prize.
It was,
right?
but you guys shot up like crazy, and I think that's indicative of any time you merge, you kind of shoot up the track pretty quickly after that. Where I think the game might be rough is for it, like in a 4 or 5 player game, when you're not the person in lead and you're not the merged gods, you're kind of stuck in the middle, and you have a harder time competing, I think.
I was going to say the optimal player count for me at this game that we've played is 3 players. I think that is the best situation. 5 players can be good, but it has exactly what you're saying. I think an odd number player count is better, but I think that 5 can be too much because you have that middle person or 2 that ends up filling weird spots. So yeah, I agree. This game is not by any means perfect. I'm curious though, Kevin and Tyler, did you play with the Guardians draft?
We did play with drafting Guardians. We did not play with the Pharaoh expansion. It was a little too much to add back in.
Yeah. I liked the Guardians draft. It adds, so don't do that with new players.
No.
For one, because you're adding double the Guardians, double the rules for the Guardians. I don't know if I would like it in every scenario though, because we talked before about plugging it into let's do this.
Always play it.
Always play it. I think the scenarios are balanced towards what they are, right? Not drafting or drafting. There's a certain number of monuments that you start off with that are available in the game.
That's true.
That would throw that off. You would have to manipulate that a little bit to make it work, which is possible. But I don't think I.
But it's house rules.
And it's not necessarily just house rules. But I just don't know if it would. I don't know. That is part of it. But I think the scenarios are optimized for either draft or not draft. That's kind of what I think. I don't know. I like it.
I hadn't considered the fact that you're right. There is monument distribution differences from scenario to scenario that could have an impact. And I don't know whether or not it would have a significant one or not. But like I can absolutely see what you're saying from that I hadn't really considered up until this point.
Yeah,
I think I'd still be happy adding it into every game, but I think, I've played this game a number of times. I still have not played all the Guardians, and that is the quickest way to get exposed to all the Guardians is by having 2 of each level, whereas in the base, just playing a regular scenario, you only have 1 at each level.
Yeah. So to kind of finish up, one thing that you mentioned, Tyler, and maybe you'll bring this up, maybe not, but the game has a lot of variability with the Guardians, with the gods, and your powers, but it only has 1 map. And we talked about that. And that's probably enough, right? But really, you play that 1 map, you know where the rivers are, you know where the deserts are, you know the strategy. If you go up north, you're going to want to play what is the card? I can't remember what it's called. You go to the desert area.
The green one, right? Yeah.
You go to the desert area to play the drought, and you kind of have the same strategies that develop over time with that 1 map. So it would be, you mentioned this, like make the other side.
Give it a different map on each side of the player board. I don't know. I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I think so too. And it would have added a lot more development because the scenarios aren't going to be optimized. You have to create a whole nother book of scenarios potentially, but that would have been cool.
Well, hold on. Since Come On listens to our podcast.
We know they do. That's right.
And just came out with Cthulhu Death May Die Season 3 announcement. Maybe it's time that they come out with a new map and new scenarios. Let's do it. I want an announcement this week.
Burned our hot streak.
I saw on Facebook, I think, they have a big announcement on Friday.
They do. I saw that.
They do.
Oh, okay.
They do.
It's not on.
Ankh was in there, though.
It was.
I don't know. How cool would that be, though? Quick, throw something together.
Yeah. So Kevin, what's your final rating?
So I gave it a 5 initially. It's going to go down slightly for me. I think it's going to be a 4 for me. Yeah. As far as it being it's still in my collection and it'll remain in my collection and I would still play it. Like 4 is still a great score.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I'll continue to play and I'll play anytime, but it's not quite at the 5 level for me.
It's still a 5 for me. I've played it 4 times, I believe, since we reviewed it. I still love this game. It's really, your turns that you take are so simple. The conflicts is where it gets a little heavier, but I still love the bluffing of the 2 merged players as the merged gods. It creates fun experiences. I still really like this game. It's still a 5 for me. And I hope that at some point we get a little bit more content for it.
Yeah.
That's our Ankh Gods of Egypt recap.
If you've played Ankh, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. So join our Discord. Tell us a little bit about what you've experienced or why you haven't played the game. And I'd equally be interested because I imagine that merge thing is off-putting to a lot of newcomers. Yeah. So I think we're still excited about Ankh to some capacity. For me, I'm very excited about Ankh still, but let's talk a little bit now about things that we're excited about moving forward. So I can't remember when, but I heard about a game a long time ago coming out, one that is nostalgic to me because it used to be a computer game. It's Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. They're making this into a board game. As a kid growing up, I played this game with my family, my not quite then step siblings. Like, this was one of the games that we played kind of that brought our families together. We did this turn-based experience on one computer. Everybody would take turns and go play games and stuff in between. And then when it was somebody's turn, you would switch in and tag in and play this game. Essentially what Heroes of Might and Magic is it's it's kind of like a Civilization game esque, but really it's more of this development game where you're creating this group of, you're creating a civilization of different varieties. So you have Rampart, which has centaurs and mythical, fantastic creatures. You have the giant race that has like titans and a bunch of different creatures, and you have like the necropolis civilization that has the undead and vampires and all these different things. And you can choose one of these groups, and then you explore the land. It's 4X-ish in that you're going out and expanding and growing and developing resources. I know nothing about how the board game works other than I've seen that this is going to be launching here in November on Kickstarter. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be getting this one just for the nostalgia's sake. This is a game that I'm very excited about. And I need to see some gameplay elements to this, but everything I'm seeing out of the pictures that I've seen from SN recently, it's bringing back these feelings of my childhood and like these games, this game that I played, and I'm excited for the possibility of this game. So that's Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game.
So one of the things that I think I'm excited about, initially I wasn't, but I've thought a little bit more about it, is the announcement that the Board and Dice is doing a Teotihuacan Deluxe version, which will include the base game and all expansions.
Too bad you bought all the expansions already.
Yep. But my red pieces don't match my red pieces in my base game.
Thanks for pointing that out. Mine don't either.
Yep. So maybe they'll be the same color in the deluxe version.
Yeah, how deluxeified is this?
I don't know. I already feel like the board is beautiful.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah.
So I don't know where I stand with this. If they add new content, great. If they let me buy just the big box, great. If they deluxeify the resources, I've already kind of done that a little bit myself. I don't know. Like,
how cool would it be to have a bigger board with a massive temple in the middle that's made of this super premium pieces and stuff?
They're already,
like a pyramid. Pyramid. They're already really nice. Yeah. I agree with you. It's already a really good production.
And my promo temple tiles won't match that new. I don't know.
I'm kind of with you.
I still don't know what this game's about.
But you played it like 20 times on BGA.
Yeah. It was 10 times.
Oh, 10 times.
So anyway, Board and Dice announced they're doing a Kickstarter next year for Teotihuacan Deluxe. I don't know what that entails. I'm excited to find out. I'm not sure that I'm actually going to back anything.
Okay. I have a few things I'm excited about. Oh. One thing I just remembered. And so Tyler and I, we're in a fantasy football league with the Discussion Phase guys.
Yeah.
And there were some amazing games that we had this week. Unfortunately, Tyler wasn't a part of.
I scored 150 points with my team and just destroyed my opponent last week. This week I had the same roster in and they did nothing, and I had like 140 points on my bench, and I got blown out. So I didn't. I had a busy weekend. Didn't update my roster. Got obliterated.
So if you've played fantasy football, you know that occasionally you can have a game where it comes down to 1 point or even less than 1 point determines the winner, right? it so happened that 3 out of the 4 games in this league came down to 1 point. And one of the games it came down to 0.1. The
which
winner.
Is insane.
And if you know fantasy football, that's like 2 or 3 yards. Like a running back carries the ball one time and gets a yard or 2 gain, and that's a 0.1 points. That is just insane to me. So I played Brady over at the discussion phase. We listened to their podcast, right?
He's not a sports fan.
He has no idea what he's doing, right? He may have learned something, in the first few games, but he had, I think, Patrick Mahomes, and the game last night was just crazy. Tons of points were scored, and he came back and he beat me by 1 point. I couldn't believe it. I thought I had it all tied up. My team is terrible. I'm like 1-4 at this point, but just the fact that there were 3 games that were that close, it was just, it was crazy. So I'm excited for that, for fantasy football, and where the season's going to go with those guys. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that about wraps up what we're excited about. We just want to say from the longest turn to all of our listeners out there, we appreciate you guys listening to us, whether you've been with us from the start or whether you've joined recently. We hope that you enjoy listening to us and will continue to listen to us. And we look forward to creating more content to put out there.
For years to come.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do want to let listeners know that we're going to be starting a Patreon in the near future. We're still working out the details, but we want to give listeners an opportunity, if they feel so inclined, to support the show. We're talking about what that Patreon is going to look like, what type of additional content we're going to have. But in the next episode or 2, keep your ears open, and we'll have more details.
So if there's things that you as a listener like from a Patreon account, we'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions, because we'll take all of those into consideration. We have some good ideas at this point, but we just want to finalize some of that.
All right.
I agree.
Cool.
I concur.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Tot ziens.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Yeah, I have no complaints so far either. It seems like a good one. So, have you played this one, Tyson? Or have you played this one, Tyler?
I haven't actually played it yet. Nope. But I'd love to play it. Send me an invite.
I'll send you an invite.
Oh my gosh. Send me an invite, please.
Invite coming.
Whatever.
No, invite coming. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a game in for sure.
So, Tyson, do you want to highlight some of Tyson?
It's so funny. You're just sitting there. Tyler can't eat pieces, and it's not gonna. He can eat them at home, but nobody's watching.
Oh my gosh.
Opportunity.
Choreographed. I've never had trouble with that word before tonight.
And I'd forgotten about it until I saw pictures from Essen.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, now I'm going to have to redo the whole thing. Thanks.
At some point, we might do a Patreon.
Were you going to say something?
I did say something and he ran over me.
Well, it didn't happen once, okay?
At the very end. I know. I thought we were going to make it through the whole episode.